When Mark and Chloe announced their engagement, I was at home, staring at a blank document on my computer screen. I was trying to write my resignation letter, but the words wouldn't come. My friend and coworker Emily called me, her voice a frantic buzz in my ear. "Sarah, Mark is getting engaged, and it's not to you." "Thanks for the news flash," I said, my voice flat. "They're saying you're about to be fired," she continued, ignoring my sarcasm. "You can't let her win," I corrected her, my voice tired. "She's not just some rival, Emily. She's his first love, the one he never got over." Everyone knew Chloe was the great love of Mark's life, the one he'd held a torch for all these years. As for me, I was already on suspension. "But you were set up," Emily insisted. I sighed, the sound long and heavy. "Mark doesn't believe me. It doesn't matter what anyone else thinks." I went back to the blank page, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. Emily's voice softened with concern. "Sarah, you're not actually quitting, are you?" I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. "Yeah, I am," I replied quietly. Her anxiety spiked. "If you leave now, you'll never clear your name. All your hard work, all that time you put in. It will all be for nothing. It's not worth it to leave just because you're angry." I looked down at my hands, resting on the keys, and shook my head. Emily didn't understand. I wasn't leaving out of anger. I was leaving because I truly wanted to go. A few clicks later, the message popped up on my screen. "Resignation submitted successfully. My name is Sarah. I grew up in an orphanage. From a young age, I understood that my life was different from other children's, but it never made me sad. In a way, I felt lucky. While other kids had parents, I had the director of the orphanage, a woman I called Aunt Carol. She was the one who gave me my name, Sarah, which she said meant princess, hoping I'd have a life filled with good things. While other children were pushed into lessons for piano or painting, I was allowed to choose my own path. Out of everything, I chose to grow flowers. I spent my days surrounded by plants, my hands in the dirt, and I taught myself everything I knew. It started as a hobby, then became a skill, and eventually, a profession. Through years of trial and error, I learned enough to get into an agricultural college. If things had gone according to plan, I would have opened a little flower shop and lived a quiet, happy life. But life rarely goes according to plan. Back then, Mark wasn't a CEO. He was just a quiet, reserved teenager. It was my own fault that our paths crossed. I had seen the weather forecast that night and knew a thunderstorm was coming, so I hurried to the lab to close the windows. By the time I was done, the rain was pouring down, and I realized I had forgotten my umbrella. There was no one else around, and I was about to make a run for it when I saw Mark walking by, holding an umbrella. "Hey, can you share your umbrella?" I yelled out to him. He glanced at me briefly and then looked away, pretending he hadn't heard. "Come on, please help me out," I called again. "You'd be saving my life." Maybe I sounded a little too desperate, because something in my voice must have reached him. He finally turned and walked back toward me. When he saw my face clearly in the dim light, he stopped for a moment, a flicker of surprise in his eyes. I wasn't sure what he saw, but it didn't matter. All I cared about was getting out of the rain. "Where's your dorm?" he asked, his voice low. "I'll walk you." I was touched by his unexpected kindness. As we walked, I remembered the small potted flower I had in my bag, one I had nurtured myself. "Thanks," I said, pulling it out. "This is for you." "I don't want it," he said bluntly. "I'm allergic." "Well, I guess it wasn't meant to be," I joked. After that, it seemed like we kept running into each other. It's funny how that happens sometimes. You meet someone once, and then suddenly they're everywhere. We slowly got to know each other, and soon we were seeing each other almost every day. I learned that he was a student in the prestigious business program in the building next to mine. I learned that his family was incredibly wealthy. And, of course, I learned the real reason he was so friendly to me. I looked like his ex-girlfriend, Chloe. The first time one of Mark's friends met me, his reaction was the same as Mark's had been. "Wow, you really look like Chloe." Is that something you're supposed to say out loud? I thought. "Who's Chloe?" I asked. "Mark's childhood sweetheart," he explained. "She went abroad to study piano. He's probably never gotten over her." The friend suddenly looked uncomfortable, realizing what he'd said. "Don't take it the wrong way. I was just making an observation." I shrugged it off. It's fine, we're just friends. But as time went on, Mark and I spent more and more time together. The hours grew longer, the space between us grew smaller, and soon, everyone around us assumed we were a couple. Sometimes, I thought so too. I never asked him if I was just a replacement for her. After years of tending to flowers, I had learned to appreciate the beauty of a bloom while it lasted. Life was complicated enough. My choice was to enjoy the present moment. When we graduated, he asked me to come work for him as his assistant. Going to take over the family empire, are we? I teased. The offer was too good to pass up. I would have a good job, and I could still grow my flowers in my free time. It seemed like a perfect arrangement. He became the young, powerful Mr. Evans, and I became his ever-present Sarah. If I had to be honest, Mark treated me very well. Our relationship was like the story of the frog and slowly warming water. The more time I spent with him, the more I grew to care for him. He started coming with me to visit Aunt Carol and the children at the orphanage, and seeing that side of him made my affection for him deepen. Whenever we passed the coffee shop near the office, he would always buy me the sweetest, most sugary drink on the menu, even though he hated them. He would sit with me in small, crowded diners, watching with a look of mild disgust as I ate greasy food. But he would always have a napkin ready for me. He didn't like that I wasn't more refined, and I didn't like that he was so serious and didn't know how to have fun. After 2 straight weeks of working overtime, I complained endlessly, calling him a ruthless boss. For once, he played along. "Fine," he said. "I'll give you a raise." There were still times I wanted to strangle him. When we watched movies, I'd pick a comedy, and he'd insist on some obscure art film. I'd suggest a romance, and he'd say, "You wouldn't understand it." His ringtone was a slow, classical piano piece. I told him it didn't fit a man in his 20s, but he just replied, "You don't understand." The worst was my birthday. He gave me a vinyl record of a classical pianist. I stormed into his office and confronted him. "It's my birthday, and this is what you get me." He had the audacity to say, "If you don't understand it, you should listen to it more." The initial happiness I felt when he handed me the gift turned to shock and then anger. I couldn't believe how pretentious he was being. No, I didn't understand the music, not at all. But I did understand one thing perfectly. He was still hung up on her. I understood that he was the one who didn't get it, but it didn't seem like such a big deal at the time. Everyone has someone they can't quite forget. Dr. Evans, a therapist I knew, once said, "The things we can't have are always the most alluring." But Aunt Carol had always told me, "If you give your heart to someone, you'll receive a true heart in return. If you want something, you have to fight for it." Mark was my boyfriend, after all. I decided I would just be better to him, and then a little better, and maybe even a little more. I figured if I was good enough, he wouldn't have time to think about Chloe. When Mark was put in charge of a new subsidiary, he became incredibly busy, often forgetting to eat. I took it upon myself to manage his meals. Every day I planned and prepared his food, making sure it was nutritious, even if it wasn't always delicious. It became the most important part of my daily routine. I went with him to every business dinner. If I couldn't stop him from drinking, I could at least kick him under the table as a warning when he was having too much. If he did get drunk, I always had honey water ready for him when we got home. After so many of those events, my own tolerance for alcohol improved dramatically. At first, Mark would tell me not to drink for him, but as the nights wore on, he eventually stopped protesting. If it hadn't been for the time I drank so much I ended up with severe stomach pains, I might have thought I was invincible. That was how we were, a man and a woman, a perfect team, unstoppable. Until one night we both had too much to drink. Our eyes met and held for a little too long. Our heads leaned a little too close, and our hair tangled together. Maybe it was the alcohol, but in that critical moment, I asked him the one question I had always avoided. "Mark, who am I to you?" He must have been really drunk. He stared at me with a blank expression for a moment, and then, as if he suddenly recognized me for the first time, he pushed me away. "I'm sorry, Sarah. Take tomorrow off. Get some rest." And just like that, the moment was gone. The man I thought I had finally won over had slipped through my fingers. And I had been the one to ruin it by asking the one question I never should have. For the next few days, we didn't spend any time alone. I waited for him to come to me, to apologize, to explain. But he never did. I could give him the cold shoulder, but I still had a job to do. Work was work, that was my rule. After days of rushing to meet a deadline, everyone in the office was exhausted. For once, Mark announced that there would be no overtime. People with families and plans quickly packed up and left. I had nowhere to be, so I stayed behind, enjoying the free air conditioning and snacks. Everyone else had gone when I heard a familiar voice behind me. "Why are you still here?" It was one of Mark's talkative friends. "Why are you here?" I asked. "He's out," he said. "He had something to do." I kept eating my chips and watching a show on my phone. "Yeah, I know. We're having a party for Chloe tonight. I'm just stopping by to pick up her gift." The man had no filter. He dropped the news so casually, as if it were nothing. So Chloe was back. That was Mark's something to do. And he hadn't told me. He hadn't told me that Chloe had returned, bringing with her all the years of affection and pride that Mark had kept for her. She clearly knew about me but didn't seem to care. The first time she came to the office looking for Mark, she saw me and gave me a sweet, calculated smile. "I heard that while I was away, Mark hired an assistant who looks a lot like me. The moment I saw you, I knew it had to be you. You really do look like me. Someone who didn't know better might think we were sisters." She paused. "Too bad I'm an only child. Do you have any siblings? Do they look as much like me as you do?" Then she added, "Oh, and I heard you studied horticulture. If the plants in our garden ever need tending, I'll be sure to call you." I smiled back. "No problem. I'm very good with flowers. My rates are quite reasonable. I'll even give you a discount." I continued, "And Chloe, next time you visit, I'll give you a pot of white lilies. They're elegant and pure, just like you. Don't forget to ask me for it." Her expression flickered. "You don't need to be sarcastic." "What's wrong with being good at growing flowers?" I said. "Mark might be allergic, but he loves listening to me play the piano. He comes to all of my concerts. Can you say the same?" I shook my head. I can't. But playing the piano and growing flowers are both skills. Neither is better than the other. The only difference is that you do it to please Mark and I do it to please myself." She scoffed. "What's the point of that? You like Mark, I know you do, but he likes me. You're just his assistant." Before I could reply, she let out a condescending laugh. "I've asked him about you more than once. He's never said you were his girlfriend." Then she turned and walked away, her head held high, and she was right. So I wasn't his girlfriend. No wonder he never made a move, never turned me down completely, and never gave me the explanation I was waiting for. He had never acknowledged me. It was all a joke. The beautiful dream was over, and all that was left was a hollow feeling in my chest. I didn't even feel like myself anymore. I don't know what Chloe said to Mark, but that afternoon, he came to find me. Don't say strange things to Chloe. She's very sensitive. A perfect match, I thought. Two selfish people who deserved each other. I kept working, of course, but Mark never spoke to me alone again. Chloe, on the other hand, started showing up more and more, flaunting her relationship with him. One day, right in front of me, she poured out the coffee I had made for Mark. "It's too cheap for him," she said. Fine, I thought. One less thing for me to do. When Chloe found out that I used to cook for Mark, she insisted that she wanted to try my cooking. Mark didn't even have the decency to ask me himself. He just came over and asked if I could bring an extra portion the next day. I almost rolled my eyes. So now I was a prop in their little romance. "Sure," I said. $100 a meal, no discounts. What did I ever see in him? He was all looks and no substance. That night, I made sure to load the food with cilantro, which I knew Mark hated. I didn't care if Chloe ate it. Chloe had already taken over many of my duties as his assistant, and now she even wanted the little flower pot on my desk. It wasn't just any pot. She pointed at the small ceramic pot next to my computer. "This pot is lovely," she said. "You're not using it, Sarah. Why don't you give it to me?" Of course I refused. It wasn't just because I found her incredibly irritating. This pot was something Mark and I had made together with our own hands. He had shaped the rough clay, and I had carefully molded it. I had spent 2 weekends glazing and painting it. I didn't want to give it away. Naturally, Chloe insisted. She made a scene until Mark finally showed up. I think Sarah's little pot is so cute, she said sweetly. But she won't even let me look at it. Mark, can you talk to her? She tugged on his sleeve, her eyes fixed on me with a smug look. Mark looked uncomfortable. He gently pulled his arm away but didn't want to embarrass her. Sarah, Chloe doesn't usually take an interest in these things. He paused, probably unable to bring himself to say, just give it to her. Instead, he said, why don't you send her a link to the shop? Let her pick one she likes. Chloe's expression changed instantly. So did mine. Mark had a real talent for offending everyone in the room with a single sentence. The clueless man didn't even realize his precious Chloe was being petty on purpose. He didn't remember, or maybe he never cared, that this was something we had made together. Sarah made it herself, Chloe said mockingly. She highly recommends it. He didn't know a thing. He never cared what it meant to me. What was I even fighting for? Forget it, I said. This pot is cracked and dirty. It's not good enough for Miss Chloe. I threw it straight into the trash can. There's no link. If you really want one, Mr. Evans, you can go dig it out of the garbage yourself. Another pointless fight, another mess. I wasn't happy. None of this made me happy anymore. They say plants are emotionless, but people aren't. I think it's the other way around. Plants are much more lovable. After that, Chloe stayed away from me for a while, which was a relief. But the peace didn't last. After a month of nonstop work on a major bid, our proposal failed at the final stage. I knew something was wrong. A project this secure shouldn't have failed. Sarah, get in here! Mark's voice boomed over the intercom. He had been in a bad mood for weeks, but he had never spoken to me like that. I had a very bad feeling. Sarah, he said, his voice cold and serious, I'm going to ask you one more time. Did you leak our final price? I looked up at him, a chill spreading through my chest. Mark, the man I had stood by for so long, was accusing me of betraying the company. Assistant Sarah, Chloe said, appearing at his side. I never thought you were the type to bite the hand that feeds you. I have never leaked anything to anyone, I said firmly. Before I could finish, Chloe cut in with her sickly sweet voice. But I heard the leak came from someone using an account with a little flower icon as their avatar. Doesn't that sound like you? I took a deep breath, telling myself not to argue with her. What mattered was solving the problem. And where did you hear that, Miss Chloe? Mark's face darkened. That's enough, Sarah. You have no right to talk to Chloe like that. If it weren't for her father's connections, do you think this company would even be where it is today? Connections. How ironic. He was using connections to question my qualifications. I didn't have the right? They threw a welcome party for Chloe while I worked late, crunching numbers by myself, but I didn't have the right? I clenched my fists. So what now? I should be grateful? Grateful that I get to take the blame for someone else? I looked him straight in the eye and asked the only thing that mattered. Do you trust me? Other people could doubt me, but not him. I stared at him, desperately searching for a flicker of trust in his eyes, but there was none. He silently slid his phone across the table. The screen showed an anonymous message. It had my profile picture and the data file. I was so furious I started to laugh. If something this pathetic is enough to convince you, I said coldly, then I really misjudged you. Sarah, you should be grateful Mark didn't question you in front of everyone, Emily whispered to me later. I couldn't stand to look at the two of them, standing together like a pair of righteous heroes. I felt sick. I burst into Mark's office. Mr. Evans, I don't need your courtesy. Whether I did it or not, you and I both know the truth. I was suspended, based on what Mark called evidence and protocol. He was fair to everyone, except me. Since graduation, I had worked tirelessly for him. The suspension, honestly, wasn't so bad. Not having to see them was a relief. If only Emily would stop calling me with daily updates. Sarah, you won't believe it, she'd say. Chloe's been acting like the boss's wife, ordering everyone around. She has a concert coming up, and Mark finally gave us all time off. All that free time led to thinking. I remembered how I had wanted Mark to spend my birthday with me and how he had said he was too busy. My phone buzzed. It was a message from Chloe. Sarah, my concert is tonight. You probably don't want to come, but Mark told me he's planning to propose to me there. I wanted to invite you to witness our happiness. Disgusting. Fine, I told myself. I'll go. It was time to finally wake up from this delusion. Aunt Carol always said that if you make a mistake, you have to own up to it. And I had been very wrong. So I went to Chloe's concert. I sat in a quiet corner and watched the man I loved get on one knee and propose to someone else. That day, I replayed every moment of our failed relationship in my head. I came to one conclusion. I was a good person, but Mark wasn't worth it. That night, with a clear mind and a steady heart, I wrote my resignation letter. I was gracious. I wished him and Chloe a long and happy marriage. The next morning, I went to the office one last time. Mark and Chloe were handing out wedding candies. When they came to my department, Chloe clung to Mark's arm. "If only Sarah were still here," she said with a thoughtful smile. "Maybe you wouldn't have had to suspend her." Mark placed a piece of candy on my desk. "All right, since you said so, we'll put it behind us." Emily's awkward silence caught his attention. He hesitated, then said, "Sarah already resigned." "You didn't know?" The office fell silent. "Is that some kind of joke?" Mark asked, his expression dark. "She's just throwing a tantrum. Emily, ask her if she really wants to quit." After a moment of silence, he snapped, "Let her do what she wants," and slammed the door. The other assistants whispered among themselves. "Poor Sarah," one said. "She worked so hard for him, even ended up with a bleeding stomach from that bidding case, and now she gets blamed." "Wait, bleeding stomach?" Mark had returned, his voice sharp. One of the girls pulled a bottle of medicine from my desk drawer. "It's Sarah's, Mr. Evans. She's still taking it." Mark froze. He knew exactly where my stomach problems came from. All those business dinners where I drank for him. I remembered him asking once if I felt sick. I had just laughed it off. "What, you think everyone's like you? I can handle it." His face paled. Just then, Chloe walked in, and he quickly composed himself, his expression turning cold and blank again. Even knowing what I had sacrificed, he still chose her. I didn't know who to pity more, him or me, and how did I know all this? Because Emily kept me updated. It had been days since I resigned, and Mark hadn't contacted me. I didn't care. Word was, Chloe had Emily clear out my desk. Word was, Mark walked past my empty desk every day without a glance, until one day he saw the cracked flower pot that Emily had rescued from the trash. "Mr. Evans," Emily explained, "that's the pot Sarah left behind. She made it herself. She's gone now. Maybe you should let the pot go too." Mark's face went pale. He picked up the pot, disbelief in his eyes. "She made this?" His fingers traced the surface, and inside he found the initials we had carved together. "Did she leave anything else?" he asked, his voice hoarse. "Her sunflower guide," Emily replied. "A notebook she wrote by hand, full of notes for working with you." Mark took the notebook and spent the rest of the day in his office reading it. Page after page detailed his preferences, his habits, everything. He realized I understood him better than he ever understood himself. But I was gone. 2 years passed. I had moved to a beautiful city called Spring View, where the weather was always mild and flowers bloomed all year. I opened a small guest house with a courtyard full of flowers. I had found my peace. I owed Emily an apology for leaving without a word, and when we finally spoke, we talked for hours. Then she brought up a name I had almost forgotten. Mark. She told me he had almost lost his mind after I left. He called me endlessly, went to my old apartment, and even went to the orphanage to find me. He hired a private investigator, but I had vanished. "That was the first time I ever saw him so broken," Emily said. "He would just sit at your old desk and stare. He buried himself in work just so he could spend the rest of his time looking for you." I didn't feel like I had won. I had put my whole heart into it too. But none of it mattered anymore. I didn't love him. Life in Springview was good. I made friends like Alex, the bartender at the local pub. One day, he called me over excited. "Sarah, you won't believe this. I just saw this girl on social media who looks exactly like you." He showed me his phone. It was Chloe. Her wedding diary was trending. So they're finally getting married, I thought. That's good. Then my own little courtyard went viral. A famous photographer had taken a picture of the flower wall I had built with a blurry shot of my profile in the corner. Before I could even process my fleeting internet fame, Emily called. Sarah, did you see it? Mark is on his way. The next morning, he showed up at my gate. He looked tired and unshaven. His eyes were red as he stared at me. Long time no see, Sarah, he said, his voice strained. Why did you leave without a word? It's been a while, I said calmly. Come in for some tea. He didn't move. Why didn't you contact me? Who gave you the right to leave? This man hadn't learned a thing. Come in or don't, I said, turning to walk inside. You want to know why I left? What was I supposed to do, stay and be your scapegoat? I'd lost myself completely. I had to go. He reached for me, panic in his eyes. I'm sorry, Sarah, he said. I know you were wronged. It's not that I didn't believe you. I just didn't have proof. I laughed, a bitter sound. So I was the sacrifice. Got it. He had no argument. After a long silence, he pulled a small box from his bag. Inside were 2 identical clay pots. One was the cracked one we had made together. I've kept this for 2 years, he said. I went back to the studio and made another one. Will you take it? His eyes were filled with regret. I took the new pot. His face lit up. Then come back with me, Sarah, please. I shook my head. Mark, it's over. I only took the pot because it was mine. No, it's not over, he said desperately. I love you. I know you love me too. Loving you is my choice, I said. I don't regret it. But letting go and starting a new life is also my choice. And I don't regret that either. You should go. Chloe is waiting for you. No, he said. After you left, Chloe and I talked. We realized we were confused. The person I love is you. We're not getting married. If he had said any of this 2 years ago, things might have been different. But a missed chance is a missed chance. Stop lying to yourself, Mark. You just can't accept that I was the one who left. It's my fault, he whispered. I brought this on myself. He managed a sad smile. Don't think you can get rid of me so easily. I'm going back to sort things out. I'll be back this weekend. Save me a room. I'll pay. He turned and left. His visit didn't change my life, and that was a relief. When he returned, my friend Alex was in the courtyard. And who are you? Mark demanded. And you must be the one giving Sarah a hard time. Alex shot back, stepping in front of me protectively. Make him leave, Mark said to me. I need to talk to you. Alex left with a wink, and we were alone again. I looked into it, Mark said. I know the truth. It was Chloe, wasn't it? I smiled calmly. Of course I knew. The question is, Mark, did you really not know? Or did you just not want to know? He didn't argue. I've already called off the engagement. From now on, there won't be anyone else between us. You didn't end it because of me, I said, my words sharp. You ended it because she betrayed your company, because she was no longer worthy of you. I admit I messed up, he said, his voice pleading. But I'm willing to change. If you won't leave here, then I'll come to you. I'll open a branch office here. Just say you'll wait for me. I won't, I said quietly. I'm done waiting, Mark. Following you was exhausting. Standing still while you caught up was lonely. I looked up at the sun. Do you know what my name means? It's just a name for a simple flower. I just want to grow toward the sun. I'm not a towering tree, and I don't want to depend on one. This is the end. He looked like he was about to cry. I can start over, he said. I just want you. But I shook my head. A sunrise gives me hope, and a sunset gives me peace. My life is full. That's the life I want, and it's not one you can give me. Truthfully, I didn't blame him anymore. The feelings of our youth were just that. He was my first love, but it was over. This time, I walked him to the gate. I gave him a tiny succulent planted in the new pot he had made. The flower I couldn't give him when we first met, I gave to him now. Someday, I knew I would meet someone who would cherish me, but that person wouldn't be Mark. This time it was really goodbye. Alex was waiting outside. As Mark passed him, he didn't stop. Who was that? Alex asked, grabbing my arm. An ex, I sighed. The ex-fiancé of that girl you follow on social media? Alex's jaw dropped. Then he gave me a thumbs up. Legendary. My girl is a savage. I love it. He glanced in the direction Mark had gone. But seriously, he looked crushed. Did you break another heart? I flicked his forehead. He'll live. After that, Mark never came to see me again, but he sent messages. He told me he was taking care of the succulent. He said he was running the company well. He said he visited Aunt Carol and the kids. He said he would always wait for me. I never replied. Of course, when I sent out mass promotional texts for the guest house, I didn't bother to take him off the list. I figured if I ever met my true match, maybe I'd send him a wedding invitation. Anyway, that's enough of that. Alex is already bugging me for more stories. I've got the story if he has the wine. Buy me a drink tonight and I'll tell you everything.